We're so happy you joined us for this special edition of This Week in Agribusiness, this Christmas edition. In northern Kansas, as we went west from Sabetha, we came eventually to the town of Marysville. That's the community where you find the black squirrels. And yes, we saw some while in town. You also notice when you get into Marysville, it's hard to miss that this is home of LANDOLL Incorporated. And we had the opportunity to visit with Don LANDOLL, the Chief Executive Officer. I asked him what the Christmas season is like in Marysville.
There's lots of Christmas programs, there's band programs. We have a choir that gets together, adults from all faiths get together and sing, put an afternoon choir sing on, a couple hours of singing with treats, to keep people mingling. Amongst them, all faiths could be getting together, and we're very supportive of funerals because a town of this size, most everybody knows, a lot of cross references when it comes to church funerals and all.
Don LANDOLL visited with us in the beautiful church where his family worships, St. Gregory the Great Catholic Church, a pillar in this community for some 150 years, and now with an altar that itself has a rich history from a very different location. In fact, it was found on the internet.
My right-hand man got on the internet and he found this altar, and so it was from the Newark, New Jersey area, but it was in a church that had would put on a historic register, and it was a tougher part of town, obviously, and they didn't have money to fix the leaking roof and that, and they were allowed to tear it down and move it into a church warehouse down in Atlanta. So we found it in Atlanta. And it was actually carved in 1857, I believe, over in Austria. And the statues and that you see there are all a tree. And when we moved it and put it up, you could lay the tree over. And of course, the old farmers were counting the circles to see how old the trees were that they carved the statues out of. So that was fun. We're quite proud of it.
I remarked during my conversation with Don there in his church that I had heard Marysville, Kansas is a well-churched community. They have a bunch of them.
There's a lot of people of faith, and that's very interesting. I think we got either 16 or 17 different churches represented here in our community. The German Lutherans are very strong, and they got multiple churches, not just in town, they've only got one, but you can go 10 miles to the west and go by 6 or 7 German country churches yet, and all active.
But with 16 or 17 churches, it's in a town of much less than 5,000, right?
Yeah, 3,200. So
that's high participation per capita, isn't it?
That's high participation per capita. And of course, the COVID thing has certainly not helped any of us, but thanks to your line of work, there's a lot of cable TV is allowed a lot of stations to broadcast, and I think most of them they broadcast for free that went on them. Some of the churches, I know they bought the FM low wattage so they could broadcast out in their parking lots, and people could tune in over their FM radios.
I asked Don LANDOLL to reminisce a little bit, to recall some of those Christmases of his youth, all of those years ago in rural Kansas.
It was big. And, I grew up in Hanover, Kansas, and Hanover is obviously a German name. One reason I say it was so much bigger, large families, and Christmas was a time you got a gift. We got a new pair of clothes on Christmas. We got a pair for our birthday, and we got a pair of jeans when we started school, in the fall. But that you didn't think of buying clothes in between time in my era because our folks just wherewithal wasn't there. But it was real common. And then the church services were in my early days as an older boy, why things were in Latin, and so it was much different than now. But then we spent more time in church than we do today.
Don said their family always had a Christmas tree when he was growing up. They would go out to the pasture and cut it from a part of the pasture that might have been a little more sheltered from those prairie winds, that the tree would be a little fresher that way. I talked with Don about the faith of folks in rural areas and the people like LANDOLL Manufacturing who serve them. I said, you have to be of strong faith, don't you?
There's been some major challenging times. And, you know, through our business career, fortunately, I've been diversified from, you know, we were diversified on the farm. That was a must to survive on the farm with 8 children and less than a half section of land to farm. But, you know, we all got along. Of course, it took us much longer. And then we got into the welding shop, and, you know, it was a welding, radiator, and blacksmith shop. So the diversification was there, you know, to get through the winter. You know, and radiators and plowshares, it was much better income than welding was, because a lot of people could weld at that, you know, in that era, and more so than they do today, I think. And so, yes, but you know, we went through the last 56 years, we've seen some major ups and downs. And fortunately, we've found ways to go through them all.
What a treat it was to be in Marysville, Kansas, USA. Thanks to Don LANDOLL and his family and his employees for making us feel so welcome during our short time there. Doggone it, we want to go back someday.